Welcome to the 30-minute acrylic portrait, where we paint an acrylic portrait in about a half an hour. I hope you're doing well. And today we've got an interesting one. Of course, I usually do portraits not only within the 30-minute acrylic portrait, but also on this YouTube channel. But today I'm going to do a landscape, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun. This is a beautiful time of year here in Wisconsin. We've got fall colors here. Just like crazy. We've got crimsons and oranges and yellows. The leaves are just really turning beautiful colors this year. And I live out in the country, so I snapped a picture of a scene from my backyard, and that is what I'm going to be painting today. You can kind of catch a glimpse of it here, although it just doesn't capture it here on photo like it is in person, but I'll do my best to recollect the image also from what I've seen in person and kind of enhance the colors a little bit, because the camera just doesn't do it justice. Matter of fact, I think at some point in the future I might actually do a plein air painting of my backyard. It's just beautiful. You can see for miles, and the trees are just gorgeous at this time of year. So this is going to be a little bit of an interesting painting. Again, 30-minute acrylic portrait. Trees are our subject today. That's what we're going to be painting a portrait of, our trees. So this is a landscape study we're doing, alla prima, in one sitting, 30 minutes. I have everything timed here. I have a timer up here that's going to keep me on track. You'll know that this is done within the 30-minute time frame. It's not time-lapse. And let's have some fun. Before I begin the painting, I'm going to dive in with a word of prayer just to ask the Lord's blessing on this and a blessing on you as well. Father, I ask a blessing on this painting. I pray you'd help me be able to capture the beauty of this land that you have blessed us with out here in the country. I thank you for that. Bless the students watching. I pray you'd encourage them. Let this be helpful for them in terms of giving them some tips on things they can use in their own paintings, or just inspiration as they see your beautiful nature that you've created being captured in paint. Well, bless them, Lord, and bless this painting in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so we're going to dive in. I'm going to show you my colors that I'll use here. I've got ivory black, raw umber dark, burnt sienna, raw sienna. I've got ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, naphtha red, pyrrole orange, Indian yellow, and titanium white. And so that's what I'm going to be using today. I think I'm going to add just a little more raw sienna to my palette just to make sure I've got enough. Top that off really quick, and then we will be ready to go. All right, so we're going to begin, and this is just on an 8 by 10 white canvas board, and we're going to be going opaque to get this captured here. So we'll start just by kind of blocking in the overall structure. But before I do that, let me set the timer for 30 minutes so that you know we're hitting it within that mark. Okay, we got it set for 30 minutes here. Let's make sure that's 30. There we go. And let's go ahead and just block in the overall structure. So I'm going to begin by taking some ultramarine blue. And a little bit of raw sienna and titanium white just to make it a bit opaque. And let's add a little more raw sienna. We've got quite a bit of green on there, but we do have some other colors as well. The colors here are maybe about, I don't know, 30-40% turned right now. So, but I like it when they're really brilliant, sticking out, out of the greenish hues. I don't like it when the leaves are starting to fall off the trees. I like it when there's still quite a few leaves on there. You get these beautiful hints of crimson just kind of sticking out. So we're going to start kind of in a more traditional background way, just kind of establishing our horizon line here. Sorry about that, I had it on the wrong camera. Let's go ahead and just establish the horizon line at that golden mean, which would be not quite the halfway mark, below half and a little above a third. So just kind of establish some of the hill structure here. The hill's right there, and then yeah, that should be good. And then we'll go ahead and start blocking in some of the shapes of the trees. So let's also get the foreground in. That's going to be a little bit of a lighter color. We'll add just a bit of burnt sienna to this. Yep, just a bit of burnt sienna. And a bit of titanium white. Get some nice golden tones, a little raw sienna. There we go. Now let's go ahead and put that into the foreground with a little more titanium white and a bit more raw sienna. And just establish that midground here to foreground. Getting some of the field in here. There we go. And it just kind of flows down just like that. All right. That's kind of our base color, and then we'll go ahead and we'll get some of the midground, and that's a lighter color. We're looking at adding some titanium white, some raw sienna, bit of Indian yellow. I'm going to make these colors just a little bit stronger than how they appear on my photo. And we'll put this in right here, and I might do a couple of layers. All right, let's use some good firm pressure, bring that across, just like that. So this is that middle part of the field, probably soybeans this year, I'm guessing. That's what the farmer next to us has planted. And we'll just zoom this in a little bit here. I'll set it up so you can see our timer as well. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead and get some of the midground in. That's actually we're going to need more of this color back there, what I can see, because that golden field kind of goes all the way to the back, even though there's some trees in front of it. So I want to make sure I have that established. Then we have a lighter color line of hills, which will mix some titanium white and take a bit of phthalo blue and Indian yellow. So you don't want to make these colors too strong, you know, for the hills in the background. All right, we'll put that in right there. There we go. All right, now we want to get in some of these trees in there. I think that'll be kind of fun. So let's do that. We'll zoom in just a bit, start establishing a little bit more contrast on this horizon line. So we'll take our darker tree color that we already have here, add just a bit of ultramarine blue to it, maybe a bit of Romber dark. And I have to keep in mind that the photo didn't quite capture all the intensity of the colors that I was looking for. So I'm going to spruce it up just a bit. All right, and I don't want it to be too dark because it's kind of in the distance. Maybe something like this will be good. And we'll take this and we'll start going over what we already have to establish a good horizon line. And now you can see what I'm doing. Okay, let's just kind of get a bit of texture in here. Just imagine that these trees actually stick up a little bit, and got a little texture going on. And get the underside of them a little bit. Okay, and get some of the texture on the top as they poke up into the hills behind. Now, I didn't do a sky color yet because the sky is very light, very gray, so I'm just gonna hit that at the end. Let that be something more on that part of the painting. And again, I want to get just some of the organic texture of the trees and try to make it not look too patterned. That's important. All right. And we'll get a bit of a texture going in the background. We'll add some raw sienna, bring this darker color into the lighter color. And that's going to cut across the field right here. Maybe just about there. All right. Now, let's get in some of the other colors that we have for the fall. So far it's just green. Let's put in some of the vibrant colors, some of these reds and yellows and so forth. This will be fun. We'll take titanium white, and we'll take some pyrrole orange, and just a bit of Indian yellow, and then maybe just a bit of burnt sienna to blend out of, and raw sienna. All right, we'll just kind of build a base with these colors. And then we'll just go ahead and start introducing it into a few areas here. So I'm looking at my reference photo, seeing kind of where to put it. A couple right in here. And we got maybe one there. One there. And just putting it in wherever. But basing it as much as possible on the reference photo. So we're using a small flat edge brush. This is maybe about a 1/4 inch flat. Gives us some control and ability to plot some things out. It's a good size brush for a painting this size. You get a little more texture in here. And I think this this canvas, what is this? Is this actually an 8x10? Boy, it looked almost like an 8.5 by 11. It was deceiving because it's in the horizontal orientation. I just had to double check. I'm like, did I buy 8.5 by 11 instead of 8x10? But it is an 8x10. Okay, we'll add just a bit of color over here on the left side. Maybe we'll make that one a little more yellowish. Yeah, I'll make that one a little more yellowish. Don't want it to look too contrived. And then we'll just maybe tone it down a bit so it's not too strong. Okay, we should probably have some gold colors in here as well, so let's do that. I'm going to zoom in just a bit on this main image. But yeah, let's put in some yellows. We'll take some titanium white, add some Indian yellow. Okay, maybe, before we do that, let's add a little pyrrole orange to this and get some nice vibrant colors that just pop. And we'll place that in a few key areas here. Just see if we can kind of capture a sense of the texture. A little more white. Just add a little more white to the mix here. Again, just a bit of texture. Want to have maybe a focal point more towards the middle, but not quite the middle. Let's add some yellow to this. That's always adds some visual interest when you can have some different colors, and when your values are lighter, just to warm them up a bit. There we go. Try to add the highlights to the top of the trees, because that really makes it look a bit more convincing. Just to the tops. Just want to get this camera trained in. There we go. Give you a better detail shot. Just getting some highlights in here. There we go. That's good. And we'll get some vibrant, more vibrant greens in here too. Let's take some phthalo green and Indian yellow, or phthalo blue rather, and Indian yellow, and titanium white. And we'll place that in, maybe just in the middle, just to get just a bit more vibrant green in there. Just so we have some texture and it's not all one flat color. Okay, rinse off my brush quick and get back to the other color. I'd like to extend some of the warmer colored trees just a bit above the horizon. There, just suggesting that there's a couple of nice warm areas in there. And then let's just, to make it really stand, let's just get a nice red in there. We'll take pyro orange and just a bit of naphthyl crimson to this. Thin it out with just a bit of matte medium, and then we'll pop that in just on the corners of a couple of the areas, just to make it pop. Just to really sell us on the idea of those vibrant trees. All right, that's good. And now let's have some of the trees that are in front. So those are a little bit darker. Go back to the palette, raw sienna, ultramarine blue. Go back to that darker color. And let's make this even darker yet. Ultramarine blue, raw sienna. Maybe just a bit of phthalo blue. All right. I want to get this just a bit darker. And then we'll put this in the foreground. Maybe just right about there. And it's got to get just a little darker yet. Let's take some ivory black to darken it a little more quickly. We'll add a little more Indian yellow to it. And ultramarine blue. All right, that should be good. So take that, and we have some trees kind of poking up in the front. So that horizon line, let's just draw a line and kind of suggest that. It flows along pretty straight. Pretty straight, actually. Maybe something like that. And we set up the trees. I need to get a little more ultramarine blue on my palette. Let's get a nice thick amount of paint here. Yeah, at about the halfway mark here, just a little below 15 minutes in. And so trying to keep track of the time just to make sure I can get this done. Okay, so we've got it's a bit more of this darker color. Let's put that in. That's good. That's nice and dark. Now, see, we want those darker colors closer to us, the lighter colors further away. It's just how things work to get that effective distance. So the closer they are, usually the more vivid in value they're going to be. Now this isn't necessarily darker, or I should say more saturated in color, because the more saturated colors are in the distance, but that's just because, you know, you have the trees turning colors there. So you have kind of a big tree here. I want to make sure that that is not right in the center. We want it to be a little bit off center. So maybe about right here be good. Maybe they look like they're a couple of pine trees maybe. Okay, we'll have another one right here. You don't want to space out the trees evenly. You want them to be spaced randomly apart. If you look at your reference photo, that's always a good way to go. Because when you space them out, you know, really evenly apart, boom, 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 all pattern, it just doesn't look like nature. And we want it to look like nature as much as possible. So we've got maybe a couple of shorter ones here, kind of scrubby bushes almost. One more that pokes up a little higher, and then a couple of these kind of bush things going on. Get a little space. Okay, we've got another kind of bushy thing right here. Have one over there, it's a little bit larger. All right, and let's just imagine too that we've got a little bit of the trees showing here on this side. So I have my picture just cropped in a bit, but that's okay. I want to add a little bit of a highlight now to some of the kind of bushes we put in the trees. So we'll go to our lighter color. Add just a bit of phthalo blue to it, a little bit of titanium white, a bit of Indian yellow. Just take a little more phthalo blue. Yep. And again, just maybe a bit of raw sienna. Get a nice earthy color, not too vibrant. And we can take that and just kind of put it in. It could get more vibrant, I guess. A little more Indian yellow, more phthalo blue, and titanium white, just a bit more vibrant. Let's try that, see what we have. Yeah, that's not bad. And we just kind of hit the tops here. Just kind of hit the tops. Just soften up the edges a bit. Get a little more Indian yellow on that, and add that to this tree here. More vibrant. And just a little bit on these edges there as well. All right, I'm just suggesting some light in here. Now let's put in a little streak. There's a little streak we can put in that runs across the field, and we'll get that in there. So it's going to be kind of an earthy color. We'll take this kind of earth tone, but we'll add just a little bit of green to it. So we're taking that earthy color we used in the foreground, adding just a bit of green, and then we're going to run that across using the thin side of the brush, holding it pretty close so I can get some good precision. Let's get a little bit darker here. All right. And we just want to run that across. Just imagining there's maybe a little bit of a divot or something in the field. Now that color should change, and it should be something that can kind of shade out a bit. Just get a bit of blending kind of portrayed there. Okay, now let's get kind of a texture in the front of the field here, and for that we'll use, let's see, a little bit of burnt sienna. And just a bit of Indian yellow and raw sienna. And just a bit of titanium white. We'll just add some of these little areas where it's a bit more golden. We need to add just a bit of pyro orange to this just to get the color to match better. Okay, let's go back and just adding a little bit of textural areas here in the field. A little bit lighter in tone. Just suggesting some things going on here. It adds a little bit of visual interest to it. And we'll add some to the back, but try to make those patterns a little smaller. All right, now let's go and add some darker areas in there as well. Back to the palette, take some raw umber dark, a little bit of burnt sienna, and now we're going to get some kind of darker tints in here, and we'll just add that to the top of the field, give it a little more texture, a little more visual interest. Yeah, just a bit in here as well. Linear strokes and some vertical strokes, just again to show that texture of the weeds and stuff going on in the field. A couple little spots down here in the other area. Just kind of blend it along, give it a bit of a gradient. A couple little areas inside here we can hit and get some texture in there. We're down to about 5 minutes, so try to get things wrapped up here. So now there's a tree that I want to get just a few leaves on this right hand side, and for that let me use a round brush. I'll take a small round brush. Before I do that, let me just establish a quick background color. We'll take some fresh, let's just take a little bit of matte medium, titanium white, tiny bit of ultramarine blue, and then a little bit of this other color just to make it gray. We're getting just a bit of a blue-gray color in here. And then we'll add a little bit of matte medium to it, just to thin that out. All right. And then we'll just go ahead and add that on the top and just suggest a little bit of the sky. We're gonna get a little more blue in here too. Titanium white. Just switch to a different brush. All right, we're getting a little bit of color mixture in here, but I think it can still work for us. I have so many of these other tones on the palette that it's hard to isolate my color right now. I want to get just a bit of blue in there. Maybe we can pull it out of the brush. There. Just get a little bit of texture. Just a little bit of blue. Whoops, a little too much. Just add a bit of white, kind of blend that out. All right, let me just blend that out. Now, if I have time, I'd just like to add a few little branches on the right-hand side. Let's see if we can do that with this kind of greenish hue that we have on the color on the palette already. Just a few little branches here. Okay, I'll just establish a little bit of the branch structure with some brown. Maybe a bit of a more of a bluish color. Okay, I'm just going to go a little bit longer while it's still ticking. I just really wanted to get that in. Just really wanted to get those in. Still ticking. So we're just extending it out a bit here. Okay, it stopped ticking, so I'm going to stop there. This is what we have for a 30-minute acrylic portrait landscape session. I like how it's turned out. I think overall this was really fun to do this landscape and just see what I could get done in 30 minutes. Now, of course, I do portraits, but you know, if you're doing portraits, there are times where you need to put a landscape in your portrait. And hey, you know, as artists, we sometimes just want to paint landscapes. We don't always want to do portraits all the time. So I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope it's been encouraging. It was a lot of fun for me just to see it could be done in 30 minutes. But I think it really kind of captures some of the vibrance that we have here in our backyard. And the nice thing is there's beauty all around you. So, I mean, you don't have to live in the country to see beautiful things. You might live in the city and see a gorgeous tree that you want to paint, or just the way the light falls on a building. You can paint anything that's intriguing to you. And this is something I wanted to paint, but I hope this has been really inspirational and helpful to you. So again, this is where we're at. We've got those vibrant colors in the horizon line. We've got some of the golden tones here in the front, and I really like that. And we also have, you know, our kind of yellowish hues in the middle that separate it. Just a little bit of sky color, you know, on an overcast day, and those bits of tree branches and leaves on the right hand side. So anyway, I'm happy with this. It's a fun little study. And then maybe sometime down the road I'll paint a landscape using the glazing technique, where we can really dive into a lot of detail, a lot firmer structure, a lot more vibrance in the colors. And if that's something you would be interested in, just let me know in the comments. Let me know also what you thought of this video. If you like it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel for more tutorials like this. Check out my website, Fine Art by mattphilleo, mattphilleo.com, and Realistic Acrylic Portrait School, where I teach beginning and intermediate and advanced artists how to paint a portrait they can be proud of. So thank you so much for watching. God bless, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.